artists, welcome to your Hummingbird painting class. In front of you, you should have your canvas long ways like so, a cup of water, a paper towel, a large brush, a small brush. For your colors, you should have your dark blue, your teal, and your yellow, and then your black and white. You don't need a plate for this class. We won't be mixing, so don't worry about pouring your colors out of your containers. If you do not have all those materials, you are welcome to push pause and come back to us whenever you're ready. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to do is grab your large brush and your small brush and turn them in your cup of water and get them nice and clean. Just going to turn them for a couple minutes. Excuse me, not a couple minutes, but a couple of moments. And then we're going to pat them onto our paper towel like so. Once you are done washing and patting them a little bit drier, then you're going to take your big brush and your yellow paint, so big brush and yellow paint, not too much where it's dripping off your brush, and you're going to split your canvas in half from side to side. So do your best to kind of find the middle area and then make a line all the way from the left side to the right side, nice long line. And then you do want to curve that line over to the left and to the right. So I've just split my canvas in half, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Once you're done making that line all the way from the left to the right, you're going to paint all that space underneath it, including the left side and the right side. Don't worry about the very bottom where it curls over, but you do want to make nice long lines from left to right, right to left. You don't want to see any bumps with your paint, and you want it to be nice and smooth, so no stop and go movements with your brush, all the way from one side to the next. Get it nice and smooth. You don't want to see any white canvas peeking through. You can always go back to more yellow on your big brush. So big brush, the bottom half of your canvas is going to be yellow, going from the left to the right, and right to left, back and forth. Getting everything nice and smooth. Anytime I see a big bump, I'm just going to go over it to flatten it out. Make sure it's a little bit smoother. Make sure all the white space is covered. Again, you don't have to worry about the bottom where it curves over, but you do want to worry about the left underneath that line you made and the right underneath that line you made. And you can just go side to side again. Go back to more paint if you need. So that side's done. Side's done. Again, I'm going to make sure everything looks nice and neat before I move on. When you're done, you don't have to wash your brush, and if you're working on it, no problem, take your time, but I'm going to show you what to do once you're done with that bottom half of your canvas. So once you're done, you can wipe off some of the yellow off your brush. Not all of it has to come off, but you're going to wipe most of it off. And then you're going to go into that really pretty teal color. So teal. Starting from the top, I'm going to come down about a ruler's width and make a line with my teal, going from one side to the next. And then I'm gonna turn that teal to the left where it curves over, and to the right where it curves over. So about a ruler's width down, and make a line with your teal, again with your big brush. Make sure it looks nice and smooth. And then I'm gonna go back to my teal just a little bit. And then let's see, a little bit thicker than a ruler's width, maybe about that much down, so I'll make a mark. So just a little bit thicker on this one, coming down, overlapping over my yellow, again with my teal, like so. And then I'm gonna make that curve to the left and that curve to the right. And you don't wanna wait for your yellow to dry, because you want that area where the yellow and teal work together, so they're both wet paints that are blending together. So teal down, a little bit thicker, make a line. Once you're done, you can go back to more teal, and you're gonna go over this yellow. Not too much paint on your brush, just a little bit of teal. And you're gonna make sure that yellow and that teal have an area where they're blending together. And all I'm doing is sweeping my big brush from one side to the next. So I'm just kind of flicking my brush left to right only again. And you don't have to have nice long sweeps from one side to the next. You're just kind of flicking your brush and making sure you're covering that whole area. Also down here when I made that line, I do want to kind of break it up. So I'm just gonna go over it, come down a little bit so you don't see that perfect line. So now there's a little bit of teal on my brush. I'm just bringing it down just a little bit more. And it looks very hazy. So you see those sweeps of lines here and there. It doesn't look like a perfect line that I made earlier. And then you're gonna go to the left side and sweep side to side where the yellow and the teal are working, and go to the right. Sweep side to side. And again, you can come down a little bit from your line too. If you have too much teal on there, let it dry. And then you can come back over it with the yellow a little bit more. So if you have too much teal on there, you can always let it dry for a little bit and come back over it with the yellow. Again, it just came down with a little bit of sweeps here and there to break up that line. And then, all right, once I was done, I can go back to more teal on my brush. I just kind of wiped off some of that yellow and teal on my paper towel, but then I went back to more teal. So this area from here to here is just going to be more teal on its own. So you can go over your previous blend a little bit, but then work your way up, flicking side to side. So I'm just kind of sweeping side to side with just teal on my brush. I'm slowly gonna go over all that space between the two lines that I made. Kind of flick over that to break up that perfect separation between the yellow and teal and teal. Because you never want to see that perfect line. You want it to look very smooth going from one to the next. Flick your brush like so. And then you can even turn your canvas. Oops, excuse me. You can turn your canvas and get the sides, and I can come up and over my teal a little bit, and then more teal on its own as I work my way up to that line. Just flicking side to side. The flicking kind of creates those feathery ends to where your bristles on your brush are not touching your canvas as much. This is where I accidentally brushed my brush on that side, but I'm going to touch it up just a little bit. All right, so back to more teal, excuse me. Go back here. And I always accidentally touch my brush with my dirty hands, but it's okay. I'm gonna go over it with the black later on, but while I try to maneuver this while I video. Sometimes I get fingerprints here and there. So pretty much I have my yellow and teal blend, and then my teal more on its own. Again, just be sure you're kind of overlapping your teal with the yellow and teal blend so it doesn't look like a very harsh line that separates the two. You want to have that blending point before it kind of goes off on its own a little bit more. All right. Once you're done, just wipe off some of your teal off on your brush, onto your paper towel, excuse me. And then you're going to go into that dark blue. So I wiped off that teal. And again, take your time. If you're still working on any of these little mini steps, push pause. You do just have to jump from one to the next because you are depending on what colors to blend. But if you're still working on the yellow or the teal, please push pause and then come back when you're ready. But once I was done wiping off some of the teal on my paper towel, I went into that dark blue. I'm going to come down just a little bit, definitely thinner than a ruler's width, from one side to the next. So just a little bit. I'm going to create a dark blue line. I can wipe some off if I have too much on there. So a dark blue, nice and smooth. And then I'm going to roll that dark blue over to the left. Again, just kind of going down a little bit from that teal that I made. Same on the right side, coming down a little bit from that teal that I made. And all that space above that line, I'm going to go back to that dark blue and fill it in. And I'll even go over that line that I made with more flicks and just come down a little bit so I don't see that perfect line that I made earlier. So I'm going to come down maybe a little bit lower than that line I made. If you get too much teal on there, you can always wipe off some on your paper towel too. And that blue is pretty thin, so that dark blue is pretty thin. So if you wanted to, you can let it dry for a couple minutes and then go back and give it another coat to make it a little bit darker. Once I was done, I can even roll it over, everything above that dark blue line, side to side. And to the right, side to side, like so. So I want to cover up all that area. And in just a moment, I'll paint the very top part of my canvas too with that dark blue. Wipe off some of that paint. I feel like I get so much paint on there. And then just the dark blue by itself again. And then paint the very top of your canvas where it folds over. Again, side to side, just kind of flicking. If you have too much teal still on your brush, you can always wipe it off on your paper towel. And then just go back to more dark blue. All right. Before we move on, we are going to wait for our canvas to dry. So if your canvas is still wet and shiny, you do want it to be nice and dry before you build the land, the flowers, your hummingbird, or the stars on top. You can tell your background's nice and dry because it's not going to be shiny anymore, so it's not going to have those shiny spots. So once you're done with your background, give your canvas some time to dry, and then come back whenever you are ready to build on top. I'm going to put my video on pause for maybe like 4 to 6 minutes, and I'll come back, check on it, and if it's ready, then I will continue on with my hummingbird painting. See you guys in a bit. All right, our background is nice and dry. I have washed and dried my 2 brushes, and we're ready for the second half of our painting. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to grab our big brush. Again, make sure all the paint from all those beautiful colors we put on our canvas are off our brush. And then we're gonna take our black paint, so big brush black paint. We're gonna come up from the bottom, definitely a little bit thinner than a ruler's width. So from here to here, I think is a good spot. I'm gonna drag my big brush. It doesn't have to be a perfect line. It's gonna be our land that we build our flowers on and our grass on, so don't worry about it being perfectly straight, but you can drag it, and you can drag it from the other side like so. And then same old, we're gonna turn it over to the left, turn it over to the right, and all that space underneath our line, including the very bottom where it curves underneath, we're gonna paint it all black. You do not wanna see any white or any colors peeking through, like so. Sorry, I'm working from home, so you can probably hear my dog growl at a neighbor. And then I'm gonna paint the left side and the right side. Again, you don't want to see any colors peeking through. And then I can very carefully lift up my canvas and paint the very bottom of my canvas all black. So your land is gonna be all black. Get it nice and solid. Take your time. And once you're done with the land, you can wash and dry this big brush and put it off to the side. All right, so my land is done. I'm gonna wash and dry my big brush. It doesn't have to be completely clean because we are gonna just go back to black with our big brush a little bit later, but you don't want too much paint on there to dry, so you just wash it and take off as much as you can. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our small brush and our black paint, and we're gonna build grass. And we're gonna be flicking our brush up, and just remember, the harder you push, the thicker the lines become, so we just wanna be on the tippy toes of our small brush. And if you're still working on your land, take your time, no rush. I'm gonna start from the left. I'm gonna start inside the land area. I'm just gonna flick up. I can curve my brush a little bit to the left, to the right. Definitely wanna have some shorter grassy areas. If your dry gets brush, you can dip in the water, pat it off on your paper towel about 8 to 10 times so you don't have too much water on there. Go back to your black and flick up a little bit more. And you can have as much grass as you want. There's areas of grass where it's kind of by itself, and then you can have bunches of grass where they're all kind of clustered together. You're gonna go from one side to the next. Those ones kind of go to the left and to the right. The cluster is a little bit here, a little bit there. Almost like sun rays coming out from the ground. But I do go all the way from side to side. It's a good amount of grass too. You would definitely want to fill up a lot of that space. You can go in there and make some longer grassy areas too. So you have some areas where grass can be a little bit longer here and there. There you go. And again, if your brush tends to get dry, dip in the water, tap it on your paper towel about 8 to 10 times, and then go back to your black. I have my grass, I have my longer blades of grass, and then I'm gonna go in there and start making my stems for my flowers. So just a little bit of black paint. I'll tap some off just a little bit so I make sure I don't have too much on there. But I have two kind of curving in. I'm gonna start where the yellow and teal blend are. So this is about my halfway point. I'm gonna come down just a little bit lower. I'm gonna start about here. I'm gonna come up into a diagonal and just kind of flick my brush that way. and then I'll come in a little bit and I'll flick my brush up. It's almost like a Y shape. Again, I'm just on the tippy toes of my small brush. If your brush is folding over, that means you're pushing too hard. Again, I came up into a diagonal and then I broke halfway up into a diagonal again. Go back for just a little bit more black paint, maybe tap some off on your paper towel. Come down a little bit lower. I'm still in that yellow and teal blend. I'm gonna come up and flick at the end, and then I'm gonna start at the end right here and flick up. So this is kind of like a broken Y, but almost like a V shape. So it breaks off a little bit lower down and off to the edge. Add some water, tap it about 8 to 10 times, and even go over it one more time to make it a little bit more clean. Our brushes are like sponges. They're gonna soak up a lot of water. So especially with black and that really pretty background, I definitely don't want too much water on my brush. It starts spreading really fast. All right, and the next thing I'm gonna do is I am gonna build just kind of a longer line starting here on the left edge, or almost the left edge. I'll make sure you can see it okay. I'm just gonna go up and to the left like so. And I'll build flowers on that one later. And if you're still working on those two, take your time. This one I'm gonna come over a little bit, and this one I'm gonna go straight up and break off a little bit. So straight up, like halfway in that yellow area, and then I'm gonna come over to the left, flick off there, and then where this one breaks off, kind of break off to the right there. Ooh, excuse me. So far I've made 4 areas where I'm gonna grow flowers off of. And this one again has that Y shape. I went up almost halfway in my yellow area, broke off to the left, and then where I split here, I went off to the right. And I'm gonna get my brush wet again, tap it on my paper towel about 8 to 10 times. Go back for a little bit more black, maybe tap some off so there's not too much on there. I'm gonna come in almost halfway, but not quite yet. Start in the ground. I'm gonna flick this one a little bit just to the left. So there's a curve, there's a curve in my line going to the left. And what's falling down is my cell phone, sorry about that I'm using as well. All right, so flicked off to the left. Then I'm gonna start in the ground again. Then I'm gonna come a little bit higher up. And then I'm gonna go off to the right. So this one almost has a W shape to it. I'm gonna go a little bit further. So this is kind of like my halfway point. I'm gonna go here to the right more. I'm gonna curve my line. This one's gonna be a little bit of a longer line. So I'm gonna curve my line to the left like so. My brush is dry, I can always pat it off 8 to 10 times. I can go back for more black. And then a little bit over to the right from this one, I do have another line kind of curving that way. Off on this side, I do have another line coming up this way. Flicking off, going with that yellow and teal. And then where this one breaks off, I'm gonna go straight and then to that yellow and teal. I can go back and see if there's any areas that I want to add more grass in, but in just a moment I'll be adding some flowers. So for instance, in this area there's a big wide space, so I'm just going to go in there and just flick some maybe longer pieces of grass. This area too, I'm going to kind of have some areas of grass as fillers. So once you have these lines down, if you want to go back and add any more grass, this is the time to do it. But be sure you don't have any wide open spaces between your stems. Whenever you're done, and again, take your time, you're welcome to push pause. But whenever you're done, you're going to go back to your small brush and your black paint. And I put the black on the side of my small brush. And all I'm going to do is use the side and just push down on it. This one I'm going to come up like so. And then this one I'm going to turn it a little bit like that way. This one I'm going to turn my brush and push down. So it's almost like I'm using it like a stamp. So this one's more up, this one's more to the left, and this one's more to the right. Using the side of my brush, pushing it down to create those leaves on there, those flowers. They can be leaves, buds, whatever you'd like them to be. This one, I'm going to go in there again with more. I added more black paint to my small brush. On the top one, at the end of the stem, almost a little bit poking out, I'm going to push down like so. And then this one, push down like so, almost facing up, maybe a little bit to the left. This one I'm going to go out that way more with my brush. And then bottom down here I'll go down and push it with my brush. And this one over here, I'll come up this way and a little bit to the left that way. And this one right here, I'm going to have one down here to the right, facing to the right. This one here, left up, but lower down, right up. And again, just using my brush like a stamp. This one right here kind of looks like a sunburst, so let me show you how. I'm going to make a dot at the end of it. And then I'm just going to come out all the way around. Be sure to keep this one nice and small. You don't want to go too big with this one. Sunburst. Add as many lines as you need for this one. Perfect. This one and this one are pretty similar. All you're doing is just kind of jumping up and down with your brush. Let me show you how. So small brush again, black paint, and I'll start a little bit further down from the end. I'm just going to jump on the left side, not too hard. You can still see that yellow peeking through. Jump on the right side. Again, not too hard. You still see some of that yellow poking through. I want to go over my line just a little bit too. And then as I'm going past the stem, I'm going to just bring it to a point. So just more of a straight line with a little bit of space between each one. Come down a little bit further if you need to. Go to the left, to the right, some on the line, and then just kind of creating a line of dots going up. This one right here, it's more of a round shape, but I'm going to come down from the tip of the stem. Just going to go round and round. Maybe just a little bit of a point on top, like so. This one does not have any flowers on it, but you are welcome to add some if you like. It's definitely optional. You can use maybe that idea over here on the left as well. Again, it's optional. On our painting it doesn't, but on yours it can. Once you're done, you don't have to clean the black off your small brush. We're gonna go into our hummingbird. When we do our hummingbird, just be very careful. You don't want to smear your arm in any of the black paint down here. We're gonna use our small brush the whole time. And we're gonna go from shapes to filling in. And again, if you're still working on this part down here, take your time, push pause on the video, and then come back to us when you're ready. All right, for the next step for our hummingbird's gonna be in this area, and our hummingbird's a little bit slanted, so not completely straight, it's at a tilt. And we're gonna start with some basic shapes up here where the teal kind of goes off to more of its own. So not as much down here where the teal and yellow are, but a little bit further up, just a little bit. I'm gonna take my small brush, and you're welcome to join me whenever you're ready. And I'm just gonna make a nice circle shape, no bigger than a, let's see, a nickel. So I would keep it anywhere between a nickel and a dime shape. So you wanna keep it pretty mini. You can always get bigger with your shapes, but for now, try to keep them nice and small. So I have a nice circle shape. Whenever you're done, you can go back to your small brush and just a little bit of black paint. And pretty much in the back area, I'm gonna come down and make an oval shape, like so. And I'm coming down into the yellow and teal just a little bit as well. So I'm coming down to the yellow and teal. I made a long kind of oval shape, like so. When you're done, you can make a line coming from the back right here, a little bit of a tilt to it. Again, I'm in that teal area, teal and yellow area, excuse me. There's still a little bit of space from here to here. This is gonna be the end of the hummingbird, so don't go down too low. So it's a good amount. Almost the same size from here to here is the same size from here to here. Perfect. Once you're done with the circle, the oval, and the line, you can go back to more black if you need it. So here is where the two kind of meet. I'm gonna come down just a little bit further down. So the circle and the oval meet right here, but I'm gonna come down just a little bit. I'm gonna make a diagonal line from here to here. And then definitely a shorter one, meeting up from here to here. It's almost like a tilted backwards L, if that makes sense. I'm gonna get this one a little bit longer, just a little bit. And this one just a little bit longer as well. I'd rather start off too short than too long because I can always go bigger if I need to. Perfect. Once I was done with that, I'm gonna start making like the feathers coming down from the line. So if you wanna watch first, I'm gonna flick down, I'm gonna get a little bit longer and then come back up. So starting from the line, I'm gonna flick down, get a little bit longer, and then come back up. And all I'm doing is just kind of flicking down. I wanna see those feathery kind of strokes coming down from that line. Again, they're short, they get long, and then back to being short again. Flicking down with my small brush. Clean this one up just. All right. Same idea again on this lower one. I'm gonna go small brush and have these shorter little flicks with my brush coming down. They get longer and then they get shorter again as I get closer to the body. Make sure you have your mini short ones at the end. Just coming down from the line. These are a little bit more slanted coming down. These are a little bit more straight coming down. Go in there and add some mini ones at the end. All right. So a little closer to the body. There you go. can always clean up this line that you made earlier, those 2 lines that you made earlier too. If it got a little bit messy, you can always go back and clean it up. Okay, whenever you're done, you can go back to more black. Small brush again and fill in your circle and your oval. Your circle and oval. Small brush, make sure you don't see any of that black poking through. You can even go over your lines so you don't see them as harsh. When you're done, you can start on the back of the head and just kind of having it all come down together. So if you want to watch real quick, it's kind of tricky. So kind of the top of the head and over to the back, I'm gonna make everything connect. So the top of the head, I'm gonna come out a little bit. See that little curve? And then I'm gonna come down and into that line that I made earlier. So up, and then a little bit of a curve. I'm gonna go over this one more time. So just kind of came up and came down, and then I connected this area a little bit more to that straight line. Perfect. Take your time with that. And once you're done, you can always start on the top of the head, and you're gonna come and almost make the beak. Not quite yet, but the top of the head again. I'm gonna come out this way. I'm gonna come out this way, so almost to a point. My black eye dry, so water, tap on my paper towel, come up and out, almost like a triangle, but don't make the beak just yet. And then from underneath here, I'm gonna come up and out. So it's almost like I've made a little bit of a triangle at the end, and then I'm gonna fill it in. So I came out and I came out. Don't make the line just yet, we're almost there. Whenever you're done, you're gonna start kind of like underneath here, underneath where we just started from before. And I'm gonna come out for a little bit of a belly and then come back into the tail. So let me show you how. I'm gonna come out a little bit for the belly and then come back over like so. So see how I came out for like a belly and then come down a little bit, and I'm almost creating that triangle shape. And a little bit of a belly coming out, coming down and connecting. And you can fill it in a little bit better. I'm gonna make my line just a little bit longer now. You wanna make sure all that looks nice and soft. So I can go over it again. Make sure it all looks nice and clean together. Take a step back, so if you want to touch anything up, be sure you don't have any of the colors poking through. And once you are done, you are going to kind of complete this beak area. If your brush looks crazy right now, you can always dip it in your cup of water, tap some off on your paper towel, and always twist and bring your brush to a point. You can always do like a practice run on your paper towel too for how to kind of create a really thin line, because you just want to be on the tippy toes of your brush. So let me show you how, and then whenever you're ready you can. So if you want, you can dip your brush in the water, tap on your paper towel about 8 to 10 times, and then bring it to a point. And then I'm gonna start at the tip right here, come down at an angle, about right there. Now that I look at my hummingbird, I kind of want to touch him up just, I want him to have just a little bit more of a rounded back. Sorry, I'm gonna come out just a little bit more and mess with it as usual. blends in with that line now that it's a little bit longer. There you go. If you can't touch anything up, go back. Make sure everything looks nice and clean. Take your time. Start with those basic shapes and start filling in. That line is pretty mini, about the same as the tail, so here. And once you're done, go ahead and wash and dry your small brush. The last thing you're gonna do is add stars in the sky, and they're mostly in the dark blue area, maybe coming down a little bit on the left side and the right side where that teal is. You're gonna use the back of your small brush. So the back of my small brush, I'm gonna dip it into that white. And remember, the harder you push on the back of your brush, the bigger the dots become. So have a nice variety of big versus small. And I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, anywhere from 15 to 20 dots I think is good. So I'm just gonna start over here. And again, have a variety, very random, about 15 to 20 dots. You can always go back for more white paint on the back of your small brush. Ooh, I went far and beyond. I went to 22. Now I want to add a little more. 23. Ooh, do I want to do 24? I don't know. Yes, I do. So a good amount. I think I did 24. I thought I was going to stick to 15 and 20, but I made it work in the space that I had. And again, be sure you're working on that top part. Perfect. And again, take your time. No rush. You are done when you're done. You're welcome to pause the video. If you want to touch anything up, just remember, wet on wet paint blends. So if you need to build on top or next to color, just be sure all surrounding colors are nice and dry. Otherwise, your hummingbird painting is all done, artists. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you have a beautiful day.